Not for long. John McCain's former running mate will be back in the national spotlight later on this week down here in the lower 48. And she's not about to let her star dim. First, though, she has to do a little damage control, a little image rehab. And she started by giving our Gary Tuckman her first post-election interview up in Alaska. We heard some of it on Friday, but there's a lot more. And Gary joins me now to tell us about that. Gary, a number of McCain aides have been trashing Sarah Palin. They've been doing it anonymously. They don't want to go on the record. Pretty tough stuff that they're saying. Is it affecting her at all?
Well, Sarah Palin, John, is not happy about it. These unnamed aides told reporters, for example, that she didn't know the countries that were involved in NAFTA, that she didn't know Africa was a continent, that she enjoyed shopping too much. But she tells us it's all inaccurate. She says the people who've said this are mean-spirited and jerks. That's her quote. And she's worked hard to keep the steam from coming out of her ears.
Governor, are you, to put it in a blunt word, are you PO'd by all this?
Not PO'd by it. It's just very, very disappointing because this is Barack Obama's time right now. And this is an historic moment in our nation. And this can be a shining moment for America in our history. And look what we're talking about. Again, we're talking about my shoes and belts and skirts. And this is ridiculous. Let's talk about progressing this nation. And for me, I want to start talking about progressing the state of Alaska and the good things that are in store for this state.
So, Gary, the Sarah Palin that you met in Alaska is really very different from the Sarah Palin that you covered on the campaign trail, isn't she?
I mean, that's what's interesting, John. I was on the campaign plane with her a few days, and normally the candidate goes out the front door when the plane lands, the reporters go out the back door, and then often the candidate and the tarmac will come and answer questions. If they don't, you yell, and sometimes they'll just give you a wave. But she totally ignored us like she didn't hear us. And this wasn't Ronald Reagan with Marine One on the White House lawn when he couldn't hear because of the helicopter. She was ignoring us. But when she came back to Alaska, she had plenty of time to talk. When she went to her office, she had plenty of time to talk. And she made it very clear to us that not talking to the news media was not her idea.
I don't mind at all doing interviews. Let me just leave it at that. That you know, I know that the media has such a great part in our democracy of allowing the checks and balances. The media is a cornerstone of our democracy, and heaven forbid that a candidate or an elected official shy away from speaking to the media. Wow. So it was a little bit of a frustration that I didn't get to call more of those shots, and I guess that was sort of the rogue criticism, was she wants to talk to more of the media than perhaps some in the campaign wanted me to. And I just always felt like it's certainly not a waste of time to talk to reporters. In fact, it's good for the campaign, it's good for messaging, obviously. And for me, being able to talk to you here in Alaska, I mean, it's my job, so I want to be able to talk to you.
Now, John, one of the things we talked to her about was her criticism of the news media. We talked to her about her frame of mind, and while we were talking about that, she criticized the media, but I challenged her a little bit about that.
Are you sad?
Not sad at all. In fact, energized. I think certainly feeling like it's a little bit of a different level because of the perspective now that I have about what national politics are all about. Not sad. Again, disappointed in the change that I've seen in national media compared to, you know, a couple decades ago when I received my journalism degree and how things seem to work then. But not sad, and also being willing to try to help there also to make sure that there is credibility in our media, that there is objectivity there so that Americans can trust what is being reported. We don't have to second guess. We don't have to be so, I guess, paranoid of what comes over the airwaves or what we see written. I want to be able to help also Americans to know that they can trust their media.
But you can't doubt, Governor, that most of us have been fair during this campaign.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So I mean, there's been some exceptions, but overall it's been pretty good, right?
See, and that's the problem, is the exceptions. You know, one bad apple sometimes does kind of spoil the whole bunch. So here again, and this gives me the opportunity to start helping. And how I can start helping is to reiterate exactly what you just said. Is for the most part, absolutely, media persons, reporters have been absolutely right on. And there has been that fairness and objectivity. There have been some stinkers, though, that have kind of made the whole basket full of apples there once in a while smell kind of bad.
Now, this is interesting. Just yesterday, my colleagues from the Anchorage Daily News and KTUU-TV in Anchorage talked to Sarah Palin. They asked her why she thinks she lost, and she says she thinks a main reason for the loss is because of the Bush record when it comes to the war and its spending record also. So she blames the Bush administration for that, and a lot of people would share her sentiment with that. Also, John, this is really interesting. She's been in Alaska for a week. She'll be traveling 4,000 miles this week to Miami, Florida to attend the annual Conference of Republican Governors. But she's not just going as a governor. She's going as a featured speaker in a panel. The panel's titled, quote, "Looking Towards the Future." And since so many people think Sarah Palin is the future, John, they will be listening to her words very carefully.
Apropos, and Gary, we're certainly glad that she doesn't think you're one of the stinkers, because we here at CNN all know that you're one of the best. Gary Tuchman tonight, thanks so much for that. CNN 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.